Greetings bikers, from Mark here in sunny Portugal, mid-September, and just look at that weather. Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely glorious here in northeast Portugal. Perfect biker weather. So what's been happening with my CF Moto since my first video? And a big thanks to 10,000 views. I'm amazed that 10,000 people have viewed, or 10,000 views on my first video. I'm not a content creator, I'm just doing this for a bit of fun and try and pass on some engineering based, technically based appraisals of the 450 MT, build quality, construction, ease of use, maintenance, all of the sort of stuff that tends to not get covered so much on YouTube. I mean, people do, but most of the content we see, as we know, is based on road, or in this particular case, the 450 is usually being shown off-road. And I want to make a bit of content that gives you girls and boys bikers some practical assessment of what this bike is like to live with, in terms of its potential maintenance, build quality, all that sort of stuff. Because after all, if you walk into the showroom tomorrow or whenever you do, and you hand over your, 6,000 something pounds, or your 6,500 US dollars, or your 7,000 euros, you like to think you're getting some value for money. That you're not buying a lemon. You're not buying a bike that's going to fall apart and give you a lot of trouble. Well, what have I been doing? First thing is I have been playing with the ECUs. There's the original, there's an Uncle Wang ECU, and there's a 450 SR ECU. More on those in a minute or two. And I have changed the exhaust I've taken the standard exhaust off and put a Dominator on. So more on that in a minute. Let's head off, let's just quickly show you what we're getting in the way of kilometres. I've now done about 2,500 kilometres on the bike, 2,500 kilometres. If you recall from my original video, oops, let me get this phone to focus. There we go, right. And there's a glitch in the software which has been put right since, but you need to add about another 500 km. So that, I've been a wee naughty boy. I've been giving it the beans, I've been doing some higher speed runs, but still 3.7 litres, 100 kilometres. That's brilliant, isn't it? That's fantastic. It's been done, I think, mostly because the gearing. Remember from the last video, those who've seen it, you'll remember I changed the sprockets and we've now upped the gearing more suitable for tarmac. Obviously, also the ECUs. There's a really nice guy called Pedro here in Portugal, and Pedro's been remapping this ECU for me. There we go. So I have been using an OEM ECU. I suspect this is an Euro 5 ECU, but looking at the part numbers, it's exactly the same as the OEM ECU, which is Euro 5 Plus. So all they've done is adjust the mapping. I think it's more a software adjustment than anything else. Plus, there is an extra sensor on this bike. There's an extra lambda sensor on it for the Euro 5 Plus models. Now, certainly with that ECU, the Uncle Wang ECU, I have been getting a very smooth throttle response. All the jerkiness has pretty much gone. It's very smooth. But somewhere along the way, I get the feeling I've lost a couple of horses. Now, of course, perception is always a strange thing. A softer throttle may feel less fat, there's less of a feeling of speed and acceleration. So is that partly it? Well, it could be, but either way, I'm putting the OEM back on and we'll have a look and see what we think. I'll give it a run for another few days or a couple of weeks and just see what I feel about using the OEM throttle, the OEM ECU, and whether it feels more practical. you know, just food for thought. But the main purpose of the video today is to give you a bird's eye view, a real close-up view of more of the build quality, the mechanics and the components of the bike. Now the covers are off. So without further ado, let me get close up. Now do forgive me because this is an old iPhone, so we're not doing very well with the focusing, so I'll do my best. But overall, I would say that for a relatively modest priced bike, we do have a lot of very, very nice engineering going on here. Build quality is really good. Let me just give you an example. I'm going to try and get close into this. Right, I want to show you, let's see if I can get the phone to focus. Oh, it's focused, yippee. Right, okay, this is a major grounding point here. There's an earth point on the bike. And what I really love about it, it's all fully shrink wrapped. That's all heat and shrink wrapped. And look, can you just make out that not only they heat shrink wrapped, but they've used a very good quality wrap, and it's got a silicone or a polymer based sealer in it. So when it's shrunk wrapped on, that's completely water sealed. No moisture can get down there into the fitting. Now, you might recall from the last video, I spent a bit of time on Japanese and Italian bikes before I made my purchasing decision. And I really liked the 662 reg. I love that bike. It was a great rider's bike. But I can tell you that in terms of its electrics, this bike is way better. You see, not that you can see it, but behind that nut, it's even double capped to make sure that that's going to be fully grounded for years to come. And simple things. In the years to come, you're going to have to replace bits. Hoses are a classic. On this, all you need is a pair of grips, squeeze that, and that clips off. On the Aprilia, not just the Aprilia, but I've seen it on other bikes, which are far more expensive. They use a very cheap, crimped compression fitting. Cheap and nasty they are, and you need a special tool to take them off properly, and they are a pain in the posterior to do. This, no, get your grips on that, squeeze it, that's going to come off. Same at the other end down there, that's going to come off. Well done to Mr. and Mrs. engineering team at CF Moto. That's the way to do it. And these clips are good quality. Look at the size of them. They're not cheap and cheerful. Look at these pinch clips here. You know, really nice. That means if you've got to change something in the future, you're not going to struggle. Everything's properly clipped. Look at the wiring loom. Really nicely done. I'll try and steady this camera. Just really nicely laid out, fully properly wrapped. Look at that weld. That's a nice weld. Similarly here, that frame weld, that's good quality. Quite honestly, I'm going to pose a question to you all, if I can get this camera to be steady. I'm sorry it's very shaky. There you see the CF Moto badge on the casing. Just close your eyes for a second, having watched the video so far, and imagine that badge reads BMW or Ducati or even Honda or some other make. Now, I paid about 6,800 euros for this bike in Portugal with a few bits, just around 7 in total. I want you to imagine that if you change that badge there, those letters, to BMW or another legacy brand, how much do you think you'd pay for this bike, for this level of build quality? Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen, food for thought. Because this is the reason why I bought this bike, because in the end, and forgive me for the shaky camera, but in the final analysis, when I was looking at the Honda Trans Alps, the Aprilias, the Teneres, here's how I was thinking about it. Well, for this bike, granted it's a 450, not a 700, but you know, bear with me. For this bike, I'm paying just a lick under €7,000. For a 710 array on the road with the same amount of accessories, I've got to pay €13,500. Okay, almost double. Now, I'm an engineer, so what I'm looking for is double the quality. I'm looking for fixtures, fittings, hoses, clamps, paint finishes, frame dimension, frame construction, frame design. I want everything to be double the value of this bike. But I wasn't finding it. I wasn't getting it. On the Aprilia, the electrics, sorry, they were really bad. Fixtures and fittings, no. Any better than this bike? No. Tenere 700 2025 model, lovely bike. Definitely had a slight edge on this bike for fixtures and fittings. Frame design, no. On the frame on the 700 Tenere, sorry, no. You can't separate out the subframe. The exhaust hanger is still welded on, which means if you bend it, it's a pain. No, I'm afraid not. This, in my opinion, as a 40-year-old engineer with some experience, this is a better screwed together bike than the Tenere. Now that's saying something, isn't it? That's saying something. That's not to say the Tenere is a bad bike. It's a bloody good bike. And anybody that buys one, I'm sure will be very happy with it, or should be. But at twice the money, in my book, you should be buying twice the bike. And this is where the legacy makers are falling down, although I'm sure they'll fight back, but they're not delivering twice the bike for twice the money. Because right now, you can now see this bike pretty much naked. Okay, you have another look and you decide for yourselves, when you see the way it's all screwed together, the fixtures, the fittings on it are all looking very, very good. Now, what's it going to be like in 5 or 10 years' time? Well, I mean, it's going to have its fair share of rust like every other bike. But I've done some serious stuff. I had a very serious run off-road last week, you know, and I dropped the bike twice. And I can tell you, much to my amazement, even the plastic handguards stood it, you know. Admittedly, it was soft ground. But I'm using this bike. I'm not holding back, and I've not cleaned it very much. Well, I've blown the dust off it and thrown some water over it, but I can't fault it. I honestly cannot fault it. I'm trying to fault it. I'm trying to find a problem with this bike, a serious problem, but I'm struggling. So, food for thought on that one, folks. You can actually see, you know, you can really get to see what the bike is like. So let me go around here and show you the electrics and under the seat, okay? Again, you've got to put this in context. This is a bike that's, you know, for its build quality, its size, if this was Japanese or German, you'd be paying €10,000 for it easily, you know. Wiring, really neat. I did get one question from a viewer said, "Oh, what about how did you wire in your battery charger?" I like to be neat, so I extended these fittings here, put in new ones, and paralleled the wiring off and ran it through this clip here. I will add some anti-chafing material here, but the seat holds that flat, and I can nicely charge the battery. Some guys are taking off this air filter snorkel here to allow it to breathe a bit better. You could if you wished, but you can see accessing the air filter is very, very easy. Very easy. Paint finish, again, fit and finish, really, really nice. Can't really fault it. You have to keep remembering the price of this bike. So, on to the last subject. I changed the the exhaust, the silencer. Couple of advantages with the Dominator. Well, bit of background on the Dominator. It was on offer from Dominator in Poland. I think it's just over €200. It is a full stainless steel straight through exhaust. It does have a baffle in it. I'll show you that in a sec. Build quality is excellent. Well done, Dominator. Now they tell me they build this in Poland. It's not Chinese production brought in and badged. That explains why it took 2 weeks for them to begin the shipping, because they were actually making it for me. I like it because it gives me more clearance under my Rhino bag, because I've been starting to melt fittings off the old, much bigger exhaust, and as I say, I save about 3/4 of a kilo. Welds, very, very nice. Let's look at these welds. Really, really nice quality. Absolutely fine. Perfect fit. No bending of brackets to get it to fit. It went on like a glove. I like the sound compared to the standard exhaust. It's similar. I measured it. It's about 90, 91 dB with the straight through baffle in it. If you take the baffle out, it's 100 dB, which I do not recommend. Anything over 90 dB for sustained periods will damage your hearing, so I don't recommend you go there. This is what it sounds like. Let's turn it on. There we go. It's got a nice deep rumble, just a bit more pleasing to the ear, I think. But the main thing is I saved weight. I got some more clearance under my bag so I don't get the heat problem. And I just like the look of it. I think it looks fantastic. Is it Euro compliant? I'm told it is. I'll need to look on the back of it, but I did get a certificate with it. But obviously you need to check in your country if when you add an aftermarket unit like this, if it complies. It certainly won't if you take the baffle out. It's bloody noisy. But there you go. So I'm rambling on a bit, aren't I? And that's going to bore the pants off you. But I can say, if you want to change your ECU, it's pretty easy. Even the ECU's got its own mounting frame, and it only takes two bolts. Can you see that? It just bolts on there. Job done. Very easy to disconnect here. There's a lever inside that rubber housing. Push a lock tab over, pull the lever up, come straight out. Dead easy job. 10-15 minutes takes your panels off, and there's a couple of Australian guys have done videos on how to take your panels off, so won't do that. I did get a question about the CST tyres, and I would say right now they're lasting pretty good. I have not used them in the wet, only in the dry, but I'm very pleased with the wear and I'm very pleased with the grip. Back tyre's doing well. So there we go. So I would say, don't be in a rush to throw your CST tyres off unless you've got very specific needs off-road. If you're just doing general biking, a bit of off-road and mostly on-road, wear these tyres out, get some mileage, get some kilometres out of them, they're fine. So concluding, after nearly 4 months of ownership, I can safely say this. I cannot find any serious major design issue with this bike. I cannot find any loose fittings, bad fittings, cheap fittings. For the price point. Am I enjoying riding this bike? Absolutely. Am I enjoying riding the 700? Absolutely. Am I glad that I didn't buy a legacy maker brand? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sad that I wasn't able to buy or wasn't willing to buy a legacy maker brand, but I think from my first video and from this video, I would debate with anybody who makes the claim that, or says that these Chinese bikes are rubbish. No, they are not. Are they going to give up and fall apart? No, they are not. Are they going to cause major issues in the future? I would say from the engineering I've seen thus far, highly unlikely, providing you maintain them correctly. I don't see any technical reason why this bike won't roll on for another 10, 15 or 20 years. Bearing in mind what you pay for it at the front end of this, you know, of your ownership. Just think what what you pay for it at the beginning. You're getting an awful lot of bike. Now I'm going to reiterate, this is of my own volition. I am not paid by CF Moto. I shelled out the euros for this bike. I'm just making this content as a bit of an alternative to the standard content you see on new bikes. This is more from a sort of technical maintenance point of view, and what's the bike going to be what is this CF Moto 450 MT going to be like to live with when you want to modify it, when you want to clean it, when you need to maintain it, when you need to put a service part on it, when you need to change a component. And I can tell you right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super easy, super good, it's an 8.5 to 9. And you know the bikes I'm working on, look, there's my other bikes. Oh, and at the risk of rambling on, I just want to illustrate something for you. Here's my old BMW. You're going to remember that from the previous video, those that watched it. It needs some TLC. I've got to change the fork seals, which I'm in the process of, waiting for them to come. I've got a fuel leak on the tank and I've got to change the fuel filters. And to comply with Portugal's registration, because this is a UK bike coming into Portugal and being re-registered, the IMT, the transport department here, want me to get this head reprogrammed from miles to kilometres. That's a job for BMW. Now, BMW have told me here in Portugal that it's a borderline year. It's 2010. They may be able to reprogram it to show kilometres. They may not. If not, that whole head has got to be changed. 1,500 euros plus the VAT plus fitting. 1,500 euros. Right. Contrast that. And I want you to imagine you've spent a day on out there somewhere in the mountains. You've dropped this bike a couple of times, and you just happen to have stuck your elbow into that screen there or something on the way down, on the way off the bike. Hopefully, you don't break any of your bones. Take a trip to Uncle Wang. Look up Uncle Wang or even CF Moto. 200 euros. You can get a new screen for, I think it's around 200, 220 euros. 220? Very little change out of 2,000. You break a panel, I break one of these panels, that's 140 off you, 140 euros off Uncle Wang. That's about 100 euros off Uncle Wang. I don't even want to ask what happens if I break that pannier or a panel off that on that BMW there. I'll kiss goodbye to my credit card, that's for sure. So, sorry folks, I'm rambling on, but I hope this helps. Basically, if you are considering buying a new, smaller adventure bike, of course there's the Royal Enfield Himalayan good bike, there's the new KTM 390 out and so on. There's lots of bikes coming up, so yeah, make your choice. But I can tell you from a technical point of view, with my engineer's hat on, that should you invest in a 450 CF Moto, I think you'll be making a very pleasant investment. I think you'll enjoy it. I can't guarantee it because there's nothing in life is guaranteed except taxes and death. Those two things always come our way. But I doubt you'll go far wrong if a CF Moto 450 is on your list of bikes. Of course, they've been out a couple of years now, so you might pick a second-hand one up. you know, but overall, you can modify it, you can have fun with it, you can play around with it, as I am doing, as you're seeing, and just have fun, guys and girls. Enjoy, and bless you for watching.